was much better.
All right, welcome to Sacred Authenticity. I'm here with Katie White. I am so excited for this conversation, and I'm excited to introduce Katie in just a moment. But if you're new to Sacred Authenticity, I want to tell you what this show is all about. It's about knowing yourself more deeply and aligning with that, being able to be yourself more authentically, which for many of us is easier said than done when we've lived our lives for other people first, meeting their expectations, pleasing them, and we can get really disconnected from what our own truth is, what our own experience is. And then of course, the more you discover it, it can be difficult to integrate those in your life when it means maybe doing something different, or or even accepting something about yourself that's new to you. So this is a topic that I love to explore. It's really helpful for me, and I know it's helpful for so many of you too, to hear these stories from other people and how they have navigated this and some of their hard-earned wisdom. So let me introduce Katie, who we'll be chatting with today. Katie White is an intuitive guide and Reiki master. She's an overall illuminator, which means being in her energy is going to fully light you up from the inside out, and you will feel your most radiant self just by being in her presence. I can attest to that. She believes every woman deserves to feel connected with her most powerful, intuitive inner self. So many women overwork themselves by putting the needs of everyone else before theirs. Katie's been there before, feeling depleted and having no energy left. That's why she's devoted her life to teaching women how to break that cycle. Thanks for being here, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for reading that, because that just like lights my soul on fire. I have tears in my eyes as you were reading that. I'm so deeply passionate about it. And it aligns perfectly with this topic.
It is so beautiful. And I am really interested in hearing more about your story. I know we all come to this so differently. So I'm curious if, what your journey has been like, and if you've always had a really strong sense of self and a strong commitment to that, or how you have connected with it, that discovery process. So yeah, tell us a little bit about what your own journey has been like.
I honestly haven't really been able to feel connected deeply within myself up until a few months ago, to be honest. My journey really started, I was working in corporate for years and years, and one day a coworker said to me like, oh yeah, I thought about leaving, but here I am 20 years later. And I thought to myself, is that going to be me? Like, I don't want to keep waking up feeling miserable and like driving a bajillion hours to go to work. Like it wasn't for me. So I ended up leaving that job and starting my own business. And it just has evolved so much in the 4 years of doing this business. And through that whole journey of figuring out that I wanted to leave corporate, like something inside me knew that corporate wasn't aligned. And so through coaching and Reiki and healing, that's when I started to really, I suppose, discover me, right? And for a while, I hid behind all the things, right? I hid behind the products or the modalities or the people, right? Other people, I still hid. And up until a couple months ago, honestly, felt like, no, I am free to be me. It's so funny. I have an affirmation on a Post-it note right above my computer. And I look at it every day because it's like, and it says, I am free to be me. Right? I'm free to show up as me. And I have finally accepted that some people are going to love me and some people aren't. And that's okay. I love myself. Right?
Oh my gosh. And I love that affirmation, I'm free to be me, because I know this goes beyond myself, but even just looking at my own journey, it's like, man, how long was I waiting for someone else's permission, for someone else to tell me that it's okay for me to do what feels good for me?
Yeah. I mean, we look for that permission all the time, and we look for that permission outside in our external world. And it's been a really big shift for me, even even all of these years being an entrepreneur, being like, no, this is what I'm meant to do, this is my purpose, like it is, right? It was, but it's still, there was another layer to go a little bit deeper. And we so often want that permission from the outside world, right? Again, through the modalities, through the people, like, and we hide behind them because we're afraid to be fully seen, because we're afraid of the rejection that
Yeah.
is going to come from that.
Can you
Yeah.
give me one example? It could be really significant or it could be so tiny, but what an example of what that affirmation has produced for you? Like, I'm free to be me. Like, what's an example of like something, like one way that you've acted on it, or you're like, okay, this is me, so I'm going to do it. And, however big or small, just kind of falling into that and how it feels.
Honestly, one of the big things that is coming forward right now is I co-ran a Facebook community and with one of my dearest friends. And I had the conversation with her a couple weeks ago being like, I love this group and I love you. And I'm feeling this nudge to like step away from this group. And that affirmation, I am free to be me, keeps coming forward, because as much as I was free to be myself in that group, I was still hiding. I was still going into a smaller community versus my online presence, right? It was only this one small corner of my online presence versus this entire presence, right? It was still hiding behind her as my business partner, who again, I love and adore. We've created in so much amazing magic and within that group and programs and all of the collaboration stuff, right? But it was still hiding behind her because I was afraid of myself and the ideas that I could possibly bring into this world and the boldness that I could bring. And so that's been a big thing for me, to be able just to say, nope, instead of sharing it in this group, I'm going to share it with this larger audience. Instead of brainstorming with this dear friend, I'm going to brainstorm with myself and with God and create that for what my soul truly wants to bring forward in this human experience. And it's not to say that collaborations and friendships and groups aren't important in the journey, but it's about connecting with me and God and really bringing that together so I can bring that out forward.
That's such a great example of it, because there's nothing wrong with that group. There's nothing, like, that would be a perfectly good thing to do on paper. Why wouldn't you do that? So it's one of those things that, like, it doesn't have to make sense to anybody or even to yourself, but when you know.
And that's what I said to her. I'm like, it doesn't really make sense because I've enjoyed this group. I've learned more about myself. It's helped me stand into owning an empath and being an intuitive and talking about these magical things, right? It's helped me own that part of me of who I am. But yeah, there's this nudge that's telling me it's time to step away. It's time to do something different. And
Then
that's,
how did that feel? Like, what did that do for you to have that conversation and to take that action that you knew was like tugging on you?
yeah, at first it was really scary, right? Because I had to be seen, I had to be heard. And I feared, even though she's one of my dearest friends, I feared that she would reject it, right? Be like, no, don't leave me, right? Like, and it wasn't anything like that. It was more empowering because I was listening to my intuition. I was listening to myself. She empowered me. She's like, Katie, I'm gonna let you free, right? Not let you free, but like that was were not the words that she used, but right? Like she's like, I'm not holding you back, right? Like, how could I
Yeah.
ever do that? I would never do that. And we've had some great conversations since then because she's still my friend, right? We're just switching this. We're both actually stepping into these more empowered roles, right? It's like
Mhm.
I started the conversation, I ignited that conversation, and then it ignited something within her to help her step into her power more. And that's kind of been a beautiful thing to watch, just to kind of like sit back and watch and experience too, is how it's helping her step into more who she is and to be free for who she is.
It is. It's that beautiful example of like you start with yourself, and just by empowering yourself and being authentic to who you are and what feels good to you, it's like, in a way, it does give permission to those around you. And at least yeah, I mean, it can be so inspiring to see that, and then put that question in your own mind, like, well, what do I want? What am I not doing for myself, or what's
Right.
next for me?
Right. And,
Okay.
I don't really know what's next, right? Like, I just launched a container for a one-on-one container to work with me. And that's been amazing and incredible. And now the wait list is open for that. Right. And I'm like, okay, but there's something else, right? There's always surprises, right? If we wake up every morning and just like soak in what surprises the universe has for us in store for this day, like the magic is just already flowing in our field. And just by pausing and asking that question, like we're going to see all of the light that is around us.
Yeah. So I know that it can get hard to maintain this connection to yourself when we live in a busy world with a lot of distractions and have a lot of responsibilities, and it can just be so easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of just getting through the day or getting through the week or getting through the month. So how do you, like, just very practically, how do you stay connected with yourself on that, day-to-day basis, or more closely over time, so that you do know what's next, or that you do know what feels good today?
I love this question because this is what I have spent the past several months really learning about myself. I've used human design and my birth chart to really understand how I'm designed, how I'm made up based on my date of birth and the time and the location. Like that's not taking a quiz and answering questions from a situation. This is just who I am. And instead of just learning about it, I wanted to like utilize it. So like, how do I manifest? What does my soul crave? And I learned through that process that I need alone time. I need more alone time than I was ever giving myself. And so now it's given me the permission
Exactly.
to say to my husband, hey, I need rest. I need some alone time. I need to back away from being in the thralls of the kids, and I need the night off. Or I need, like, just last Thursday, I texted him in the morning and I was like, I love our children and I need an hour when you get home. Like
In the morning, I already know I'm going to need an hour when you get home.
and he was like, you got it, right? But it took that conversation. It took me being brave enough to have that conversation with him to be like, listen, when I say I need alone time or I need an hour, I need your support in that. And it's so interesting. I just had this thought this morning. I was talking with a client and it was just like, I was tuning into that energy, and it was, we need to help other people. We need to teach them how we want to receive love, right? And that takes connection within ourselves first. We need to know how to love ourselves first before we could ever imagine anybody else loving us. And when we're able to know exactly what we need, like I need alone time, I need to rest, and being able to communicate that to him, that helps him love me in the way that I need to be loved. Like I'm still working through some of those thoughts that were being put in, but like that was kind of the
Yeah.
gist of it. And it's like, yeah, I don't have guilt anymore for being like, okay, I'm gonna go for a run. You got the girls, right? You got them. Like, sure, here, do this for dinner, to give them a bath, and I'm out, right? Like, I don't have guilt for that anymore because I know that when I listen to taking that alone time or resting, that's how I manifest. That's how I honor my body. And
Mhm.
when I put myself first, everything else falls into place. I just said that this morning too, right? When we turn inward and the inward becomes calm, the external just naturally follows suit.
Yeah, I was just talking with someone yesterday about, like, this really hard to grasp truth that, like, slowing down is the fastest way.
Yes.
Like if you want to get there faster and in better shape, slow down.
It's such a hard concept in this society that we're in, because we're so programmed to go, 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 go. And again, here's another example of those tangible things. For the first time, a week and a half ago, I think I booked a hotel room for myself and stayed overnight. And what magic happened in that was that the next day I enrolled somebody in my program, right? And I was like, wait, because I rested and because I like took time for me, this happened. And then I had another client who was like, hey, I'm ready to pay that invoice that's due next month. Can I just pay it now? Right? Like those are very tangible things that the universe was like, see, I'm going to reward you because you listened. Right?
Wow.
And I mean, those are just like, those are monetary examples, but there's been so much else. Like I ended up getting, like my body just needed more rest, right? I got home from that, all of the magic that happened, and my body was like, hey, you need to sleep. And I like slept for what felt like days. Like I think it was like a day and a half that I was like, yeah, I'm just going to stay in bed. And again, the universe rewarded me with, when I came out of my hibernation, as I called it, I kind of felt like a bear, right? Just hibernating for the winter. But when I came out of that, I showed up as this confident mom. Like I was like, oh, I can handle this. I can handle the 20 million questions that my 6-year-old is going to ask me. I can handle the shrieks that my 9-month-old is going to give me. Like I can handle all this. I got this. And it was such like a enlightening moment for me. And that was just this past weekend. Like I was like, no, I got this.
Wow. But it's all like what you're describing, it's all so empowering. It's all like taking it's empowering yourself because you're not waiting for your husband to say, "Oh, Katie, you've been working so hard. You deserve the night off." You're not waiting for that. You're not waiting for him to tell you what you need or suggest what you might need. You're identifying it, you're asking for it, you're owning it, and you then, hey, magically you're getting what you need.
Exactly.
Great way to get your needs met. Meet them.
Exactly. And I think that's where the permission, you're right. We so often want them to give us the permission. And it's like, it's got to be flipped. We got to flip the script. We got to come from this place of empowerment and asking for what we want and just trusting that those in our field will support that.
And what also occurs to me is like thinking about you taking this time at the hotel and then like this time in hibernation. That is so important because I think like we tend to live our lives and we tend to structure our lives like every day is the same or every week is the same, every weekend is the same. And we just go through this, we kind of live within this same structure day after day, week after week. But humans weren't like we're part of nature and nature moves in phases and cycles. And if you've heard of Kate Northrup or follow like the Origin Company, she has some really cool stuff around that like, hey, we ebb and flow just like the moon and just like the seasons. And let's acknowledge that and actually honor it. So we're not like go, go, go all the time. That's a season. But then there's also the season of like the fertile void where you're hibernating and just completely going within, and the season of growing something new and the season of culminating what you have expressed and put out there in the world. And yeah, it's just a beautiful reminder too that like when you tune into yourself, you can understand like what phase you're in or what you might need. Like, do I have a lot of energy that needs to just move right now? Or is this like my couple days where I'm gonna just go off the radar and go deeply within and discover something that's there for me right now?
I absolutely love that. And her book, Do Less, definitely ignited something within me a couple years ago when I read it.
Mm.
And it's so interesting. I've used the cyclical planning and really tuning into my energy and what I need in this moment, just month to month, but then also like you're talking about, like the seasons and really embracing that, right? I have tried so many times it's felt like launching something big in January, right? It's a new year, it's a new you,
Yeah.
blah blah blah, right? No, I know for my energy, that might work for some other people, but for my energy, it does not work. I want to
Mhm.
be in hibernation mode, right?
Yep.
January is like, it's not my new year. My new year
Sink into
starts
the
about honestly like
slowness of
now.
it.
Yes. My new year like starts to creep in like April. And then by June, I'm like, let's go. Like, and that is for at least where I live in Connecticut, that follows the seasons, right? That follows the whole birthing of spring and the regrowth and then the electric fire of summer and just moving forward. And then by the fall, I'm ready for that slow down, letting go, reflecting. And by the winter, I'm like, I'll be back. I'll be back in a couple weeks, a couple months rather. Like I'm just tired.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
actually lived in a couple places where it is like one season all the time, all year long, or maybe two seasons, and it affected me so much more deeply than I ever would have imagined. But it's like, no, like spring and winter, as much as I hate being cold, it's in my it's in my DNA. It's like part of the season of my human that my human needs.
It's so true. And yeah, our society is just go, go, go all the time. But if we can start to really slow down and tap into what our energy is truly calling for and start to look at nature and the seasons, maybe take those lessons in from them and just give them a try, right? Try it out, see if it fits for you and your energy. Because there's plenty of business owners out there that probably can launch in January and be really successful. That's just not the Katie White way.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
going back to the human design, understanding your own energetic blueprint, that is so powerful. And to use the word permission again, that's exactly what it did for me too, is like, oh, this is how I'm naturally wired. Yes, this makes so much sense. And maybe I don't have to fight against it. Maybe I can embrace this part of myself and allow myself to work in this way because this is how I work and this is how it feels best and this is how I do my best work.
Yes, I love that. And I feel like sometimes we can fall into like the crutch or the shadow sides of like human design or even your birth chart, but it's about that validation, that permission. And then, well, how can you harness your energy to gain what you want? Right. Like I feel like it is I don't know. I feel like sometimes we can land in these crutches of like, well, this is just who I am. Yes, and right, that could be a shadow side of it. And so the light side is how to step more into that. And that's the tool that can help give you that permission slip that we all
Yeah.
crave. Yeah.
And then I think this all gets tricky when it comes to, okay, I know what I need, or I know how I am and how I want to honor that, but how the hell am I going to negotiate that with so and so? Or, when it comes to there are other people in your life who are used to you being a certain way or expect certain things and it no longer works for you, or even the self-judgment that can come from like, oh, I shouldn't be this way, or I shouldn't need this. I shouldn't need an hour when my husband gets home because I should be able to be with my kids perfectly all day.
Yep.
So for people who are feeling that tension and feeling like they do know something that they want to act on, but there's this tension of, how can I? What advice do you have?
Mm. Having space held for me in a safe container where there wasn't judgment, like from a coach or like a energy worker healer, was really helpful
Yeah.
because I think it's the non-judgment, right? I could just say what I wanted to, and then that space is sacred and held and safe for me to speak what I was really feeling. And right, a good coach, a good space holder will then give you that perspective, help shift the mindset, help shift the energy, and help you stand in that place of empowerment. And so that you can have those conversations with those in your that are like a spouse or a friend or family member, right? So that you can actually have those conversations. That's been my biggest thing. So find somebody that you trust, if it is somebody that you invest in as like a coach, or if it is like a friend or a family member that you truly feel safe saying those things, say them. And then like coming from a place of confidence and seeing how it's actually going to honor them too, right? One of the things that has been very helpful for me is not only learning like my design and what I need, it's also learning what my focus has been my family, because we just added a second baby, and so that just causes a lot of ripples.
Changes.
Yes, yeah, it changes, yes. So for my spouse and I, right, like it's about learning what he needs too. And I've now started to see that when I step back and take that alone time for me and ask for what I need, it allows him to step into this space of being this incredible dad, right?
Yeah.
That he totally can do this, and that builds his confidence. And he has this sustainable energy. And again, we've done human design for him too, right? And he has this sustainable energy. So he can stay with the kids all day long and not feel drained and depleted. I am like 2 hours and I'm like, okay, I need a little bit of a break. I need a mommy time, right?
Yeah.
And instead of feeling guilty for that, I just know and like thank the universe for pairing us together, for making us soulmates, because we balance each other out, right? Like we say opposites
Yeah.
attract, like my husband and I are the epitome of that. Like he wants to be like, I made a joke that if I had put him in a hotel room by himself for the night, he would have think that it was like punishment. Like he would have been like, what did I do wrong? Where I'm like loving life and I feel like a queen, right?
Yep.
So I feel like having that space held, coming from a place of empowerment, and actually how when you ask for what you want, how that can serve the other person. Like, I guess I want to leave it with this question is like, when you tell somebody, let me know if there's anything I can do to help. And if that person ever comes back to you and says, oh, hey, actually, could you like make me a meal? Or could you go run this errand for me? How does that make you feel to be able to help others? Like, I want you to come from that place, because when you ask for something that you want and you allow others to help, that's how that makes them feel most of the time, right? Like,
Yes. I'm trying to remember where I read this, but I read recently that like if you move into a new house, the best way to meet your neighbors or to really establish a connection is to ask them for a favor. And it's like flipped from what you would think. You would think, oh, I want to meet my neighbors, I should bring them a meal or I should bring them some cookies. But they actually said if you ask for a favor first and you get them to do something for you, that strengthens the relationship so much, because yes, it feels good to be able to and to know how you can help somebody and to open that channel.
I love that. It is such the reverse idea that we have, but like the ripple effect of that, it just builds that trust in that relationship right away. Because now you know how that person is going to step up. And that just like, I just see this image of like interlockingness, and that's like, I don't know, just all the fibers coming together, right? Like
Yes.
that's just a bond. Oh, I love that.
Yes.
Great.
And I want to also say, I love that advice on getting in that container or that safe person, safe space, because it can be so complicated when you're trying to, I mean, when you're in your own stuff, it's hard to see. It's hard to see the way through sometimes. And then if you're processing that with everyone around you, they're in it too. So that there is really so much value in having that space to just freely explore without being judged, but also without like being given advice right away. Oh, here's what you need to do. And to allow that discovery and that clarity, getting that clarity for yourself and getting firm and clear in that so that you can move on from there with the confidence that you need. And I know you hold these beautiful spaces. As we wrap up, I can't believe how quickly the time flew. Tell us how people can get connected with you, and I'll make sure there are links in the comments. But yeah, tell people how they can find you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I know time flies. I love chatting about this stuff. So right now the doors are closed for my one-on-one container, but I will have Steph put my website in there for ways to work with me. And um right now with over the summer, I've closed the containers that I had available, but there's one-on-one programs. There are Reiki attunement courses that have you go deep with finding in your purpose and leaving the stress and the overwhelm behind for good, like giving you the tools. None of my programs are like step-by-step processes. That's not my style. My style is to get to know you, to get to know your desires, your wants, meet you where you are and match your energy, and then really take your dreams and your wants and take them from there and hold that space for you to come in and brain dump all the things that are on your mind and in your heart, and then guide you through stepping into your inner power, tapping into your intuition, and helping you recognize that your gifts are so special and so needed in this world. So my website is the best place. And then to follow along on Instagram and Facebook, those are where I'm at on a daily basis.
Awesome. We'll make sure we have that info in the comments. And if you feel any kind of tug, if you're not even sure why or what you're reaching out about, find Katie and she will be happy to chat.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Katie. It was awesome chatting with you and hearing more about your story. So thank you for sharing, and we'll see you next week on Sacred Authenticity.
Thank you so much, Steph.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.